at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Yes, we are back in studio. A jam-packed week this week, Matthew. A couple of derbies going on. One here in Oklahoma, the FLW tour event, and then another event taking place in North Carolina on 3 different bodies of water.
The third MLF tour stop of the season there, and
that would be the stage
3. Sorry, they're not tournaments, Mark.
They're stages.
They're stages
and eliminations and shotguns and
3 different lakes for that. I would like to report that the FLW tour will be on Grand Lake for all 4 days of their tournament coming up.
I'm glad I know that now.
And that one's going to be a really interesting one. I'll be in the FLW studio doing FLW Live with Travis Moran on Saturday and Sunday. So tune into FLW Live for those 2 days to watch what's going on Grand. But I think it might be the battle of the haves and the have-nots based on what I have kind of been keeping track of.
Yeah.
Some big weights coming in, over 22 to win the XFL.
Oh, is that how much it was? I didn't look.
Yeah.
Huh, what did it take to get a check?
I don't know.
You just know it took 22
why are
to
you
win.
Laughing?
Because it had been a while since we had done a show, and I don't know what happened, but look at the preview screen.
You have it switched up.
I had the name switched up, and I started it out that way, so
you
I'll fix that.
You also have my name misspelled. And that keeps track of the trend to where you misspelled your name in the one-on-one battle between Jordan Lee and Gerald Swindle that took place last week.
Did I really?
Misspelled Jeffries there, but no big deal because you're the one typing it in, so you only yourself
I was
to be upset
multitasking.
about. Yeah,
I was doing a lot of stuff.
You are Matt Panrack.
Well, that's not. They can't see that. That's the preview screen.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to get that fixed.
Okay.
They could see it for about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I dropped the ball on that one. Anyway,
okay.
we have great shows. We have great shows lined up for this week. We're going to have Chris Zaldain on this week, kind of talk about Classic Week, talk about his prep for the next event.
Lake Hartwell.
Yes, and then we're going to have a guy that you're familiar with, that you've kind of fished with a few times, Casey Scanlon.
Yep.
Having a decent year. I think he's in 20th place in the points. Had 2 really good tournaments and then really struggled at Seminole, the last one. But very, very, very familiar with Grand Lake. He's from Lake of the Ozarks.
Fished a Classic on Grand before.
Yeah. So we're going to have him on Tuesday. He's going to be live via Skype from the water.
Oh, wow.
All right. Still going to have 1 practice day left. So he is going to hopefully give us some insight on what's going down at Grand Lake. And then on day 3, kind of unique, one of my favorite guys on the MLF side, this dude, he's got some great stories. And I'm talking about Andy Montgomery.
He's kind of found his niche there over there. He comes off as the aw shucks, but he's really smart as far as what he talks about.
The best photo out of any of the MLF anglers on their website. Have you seen his photo?
No, I
haven't. You need to look it up.
Look
it up where it
so
says right
special about it?
Look it up, man. Look it up right now, and I want to see what your reaction is. In my opinion, has the best angler profile photo that exists on the Major League Fishing website.
How do you anglers.
There you go. Andy
Montgomery. Well, that was a bold move, Bertrand going without the hat.
Yeah.
DEFGHIJ.
Good grief, dude.
LL. There's a lot of L's.
Yeah. Keep going. Is that not epic, dude?
Holy cow, he looks like... That is a very intimidating photo.
Oh,
I mean...
That's not an aw shucks look right there, my friend.
No, that is... I mean, Lucas went with blue steel, but...
Is that not awesome?
Oh, he's staring like straight through my soul. Oh my gosh.
And then click on it. Click on the photo. And then you'll see a kind of a bigger
Oh, it's
version.
even a bigger version of the photo. Yeah, that is the
Is that the shot?
What is the phrase that you hate?
What?
Game face?
Oh, yeah. No.
No, that's like a get out of my yard stare.
It's kind of like when you have jump ball to start the game, start a basketball game, and you walk out. If you were looking at that and that dude's 6'4", 6'5", that's kind of intimidating. He has the look. That's not an aw shucks look.
Did you know what his hobbies? And he loves giving his little girl a thumbs up and then getting one back in return.
That's
that
nice.
kind of evens it out.
Yeah,
then.
it's all good.
No, that's the most intimidating fishing photo in history. It really is.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. The other thing is he is actually going to have fished. What is it? I guess round A or round 1 or. I don't know what it is. I still can't.
Shotgun round?
No, well, the very first round,
I think they call
Group
it the shotgun round.
Group A. So he's fishing on Tuesday. So Wednesday is his off day. So he's going to be joining us after fishing that first day.
Would you like me to set the record straight? It's the shotgun round. Then it is the elimination round.
Okay.
Then it is the knockout round. Then it is the championship round.
Okay.
Shotgun, elimination, knockout, also known as Day 1A, Day 1B, Day 2A, Day 2B, Day 3, and Day 4.
Is Benelli a shotgun? Benelli? The brand Benelli?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know or not? I mean, I'm not a shotgun
gun guy.
I would think that they would be able to get a shotgun sponsor for that round.
I don't know if they want to go that route.
They're calling it shotgun.
Yeah. No, they already have
why not?
Don't they already have a weapon sponsor?
I don't know.
I thought they did.
I don't know. Benelli. I think Benelli is shotguns. I don't know. Maybe people on the instant feedback could help us out. All right. But today we're going to have Chris Zaldain on live via Skype here shortly. A tremendous amount of emails that I have yet to respond to, Matthew. I'm going to try and get to that on tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow morning, maybe some this afternoon. So I'm going to do my best to try and answer some of those,
these are
those
great.
email. What, the photos?
These are great.
Yeah.
The 80 MLF angler photos are just pure gold.
They're pretty good. All right. A couple of housekeeping items from stuff that some of our fans have sent to us. Did I send you this? This is from our listener, Paul.
No.
I don't know if you could see that or not. That is a bowling ball with a jumping bass
Oh, that's cool.
inside the bowling
It's
ball.
with got a topwater in his mouth too. That appears to be a Rapala skitter pop in bullfrog color.
So he was like, you tell Matt that there is definitely a crossover between bowling and bass fishing right there. I don't even know who makes that. I think Ebonite makes a bunch of those. The second thing I want to kind of show everybody, I'm big on the national media. When is the national media going to cover stuff that is going on in this game? And a column that I read quite a bit, it's called For the Win. It's on USA Today. It's part of USA Today. They actually had a story, be it not very detailed, but still it was a mention in the For the Win section about
what do they say about the Derby?
It says angler wins $300,000 in Super Bowl of bass fishing. That was the title.
Okay.
And a lot of quotes. There's good information in there, fairly short, but nice to see that there was some national pub in USA Today. You were getting a chuckle out of those photos, aren't you?
Yeah, there's a couple. I mean, Russ Lane also has the get out of my yard look.
Yeah.
Jeff Crete looks very bewildered.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are good photos.
Yeah. All right, Benelli, I was dead on. They're telling us Benelli is a shotgun maker.
Okay. I believe Bleacher Report might have been.
Oh, 6 Hour is the.
I believe Bleacher Report might have been at the Classic.
They actually had a mention on Bleacher Report, too.
That's big.
Yeah. So, good stuff there. Third thing I want to mention from a listener, Grant. I had no idea about this, and you may know about this. It was from Jordan Lee. It was a post that he made. He said, I'm excited to announce Amazon.com has made it so easy to get all my favorite Abu Garcia and Berkeley fishing gear in one place. Follow the link.
I saw that.
And then it says you use code 5fish at checkout for a discount. That's big time. You remember us talking about that?
I saw that.
That right there. So I appreciate Grant sending that to me.
Do you think is that a foreshadowing of something massive coming down the pipeline?
Maybe.
Is that a pure fishing deal? I mean,
I don't know.
You've been talking about it.
Yeah. I want to dive into it. I've actually sent an email to somebody at Pure Fishing because I want to find out more about this, because this is the first large company that I know of. There have been smaller companies. I know there's a reel company that's been very, very active on Amazon. What is it? The reel company that sponsors Brent Chapman.
Cast King?
Yeah. They've been very active on Amazon.
I think that's it. I hope that's it.
That is.
Yeah, it is.
That's it.
It is.
So I'm reaching out to one of my contacts at Pure Fishing to find out the scoop on this, because I'm intrigued by this whole thing. Folks, I said it was coming, and now with this post, Jordan Lee letting everybody know that they can get his stuff on Amazon.com.
You click on it, and it's this whole 9 yards of everything from Amazon, and then you just click the buy it, and then it goes back that, hey, they went through Jordan Lee to get to there, and it's super easy.
Well, all of those codes or promotion codes, that's a trackable item. That's why they do that.
They want to see what kind of bang for the buck they're getting.
Yeah.
If Jordan Lee posts that he's using the Champs Craw, they want to know how many people buy the Champs Craw because they saw it.
They want to know what the feedback, the engagement that takes place due to that promotion.
He is all over the Pure Fishing stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, his photos online. He's got his
name
and stuff on rod handles and reels. He's coming out with 3 of his own baits.
Yeah.
He's got the whole 9 yards now.
All right, couple other things we need to cover, and then we'll take a break and come back with Chris Zaldain live via Skype. Look, folks, my email and a couple of people texted me when this whole thing went down about the posts that were thrown out there with the videos from Major League Fishing.
We got to talk about this.
I'm going to say this, all right? I learned a long, long time ago, and I was speaking with an angler about this situation. I learned a long time ago, dude. There was a guy, his name was Randy Newby, and I don't think I've ever mentioned that name. He was one of my mentors when I was at UPS in my early years, and Randy was a great salesman. And he told me, he said, Jeffries, he said, the one thing that you never want to do is you never want to talk or make your competition look bad when you're selling. He said, when you're out there trying to position UPS, he said, you never acknowledge the stuff that FedEx is doing. What you have to do is you have to position our brand and showcase and show the customer how much better that our brand is. He said, just speak the truth. Now, having said that, the stuff that they put out, was it true? Yeah. All right. Was it true? But there is a reason that it was true. I mean, come on, folks. Seriously? Seriously, there's a reason that statement and that graph and those numbers are the way that they are. It's because they all went from Bass and FLW over to Major League Fishing.
We need to move on and get Chris on the phone before I say something stupid.
You don't need to. So, look, and dude, I'm telling you right now, there were a lot of upset people, and I can't blame them.
What was his name at UPS?
Randy Newby.
Randy, is he still there?
He is retired.
He's retired.
Randy
forget
Newby.
how old you are, because you still have a full head of hair. Most of your mental capacity is still there.
Yeah, for temporarily. Anyway, no, he's retired now. But I remember some of the first sales call visits that I made when I was at UPS, about trying to get FedEx business and stuff like that. And they pointed out that they were excited about what we do, not what they are frustrated with the competition. And the pitch was not about the competitor. The pitch was about how your product is superior.
Let me ask you this.
If it is.
Tactical approach by MLF or social media gaffe by MLF?
Here's the other thing.
What do you call it? Which do you think it was?
In this day and age, In this day and age, there are companies out there that will, and I don't know if you classify it as clickbait, but there are companies that will throw information out on social media to do one thing, and that's generate something. Generate controversy, generate interest, generate some type of motive that will get people upset, that will get people looking at what they put out there, and also other kind of stuff to where all of a sudden now you get a bump because you threw something out there. Here's the other thing. If it was that great, why did they pull it off? If it was that good of a thing to
Post
leave
was out there for a day. If you don't know what we're talking about, ask a couple of your friends who follow fishing. I'm sure one of them has a screenshot.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there's screenshots.
You know, all it was a couple posts. One of them that highlighted what percentage of MLF anglers were in the top 100 of the Bass Fan World Rankings,
earnings,
as opposed to the Elite Series NFLW, and they did it in this little bar graph where the MLF kept growing, and then the other one was career earnings for each angler, and then the on the MLF as opposed to the Bass and the FLW tour, and then the MLF bar kept growing, which obviously pretty much almost every set they've ever made has been with Bass or FLW. They just transferred it over because now they're MLF anglers. But it generated a lot of interest.
And maybe that was their
That's
mission.
what I said. Was it a tactical approach or was it a social media gaffe? Because obviously it's something because it was gone in the next day.
But that's what I'm saying. If it was that good, why did they remove it?
Well, maybe it was still that good. Maybe that was the plan all the way along. Maybe there's a master plan here, Mark, for social media.
I don't know. I just, I fall back on the statement that is made numerous times that we are not in a competitive situation. This is not about being competitive.
We've heard MLF representatives say that.
Yeah.
That they are working on their own. They are not in competition with Bass and FLW, and talk about how they want Bass and FLW to thrive and be coexistent and all that.
Yeah.
But this was a direct comparison, Mark.
I know.
It is what it is.
The bottom line is this, all right? If you're trying to position your product in any shape or form, you need to focus on the fact of why your product is superior. That is the bottom line. That's going to generate interest in the consumer.
I mean, dude, I'm looking at it still. There's 80 guys here with their pictures.
Yeah.
We don't need a bar graph to tell us how good they are. You can read the names underneath them and be like, damn, there's some really good guys over here.
Well, maybe there was some strategy involved with that placement. So it's gone. It's done. It's over with. And, dude, I really thought after the Classic that we might be able to move on. Just move on, Let them define their brand and really focus on improving and making everything better over on their side. Bass continuing to grow the young group that they have, and FLW just keep doing what they're doing and roll on down the road. So we'll see. I know from a fan perspective, the feedback that I got from some people, they were not very happy.
Yeah, I got some angry people emailing me going, you gotta talk about this.
Yeah. I just, maybe it was unnecessary, but once again, maybe it was a marketing ploy to generate interest in getting people to go to their social media.
In the grand scheme of things, not that important.
Yeah, maybe.
That's 2 Facebook posts. Well, let's get real here.
I'm with you. I can see your point on that. All right, man. What else? Anything else you want to mention before we take a break and bring Zaldain in?
No. I told you this is a historic day in the past 6 months at Bassmaster.com. It's the first day that Zaldain hasn't been on the cover of the .com in some fashion, some way, shape, or form. So he'll have to get his media exposure through BTL today.
Well, he was the highest finishing Elite Series pro in the Bassmaster Classic.
Caught the biggest bag on day 2 in the Classic.
And what I'm really interested in talking to him about is the decision that he made on day 3 after the big bag that he had on sticking with it and continuing to do what he did.
What I want to know is on day 2, he went out and he made a point of saying in the press conference, I think he said that he didn't have any GoPros with him. It was just him and his Marshall. He had no cameras on him. He intentionally weighed him in light. I thought that was an interesting move. That's a bold move. I mean, that is him saying that this title is more important than anything else to me.
Yeah. All All right, we're going to take a break. Come back on a Monday with Chris Zaldain. Everybody stay tuned.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
It's about the hours spent getting everything just right. It's the attention to detail. Good just isn't good enough. It's the years spent on the water day after day. When you tie on a bait by Strike King, you're standing on the shoulders of legends.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
Hey guys, Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. Again, it's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too. AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features, it's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
All right, we are back on a Monday. Mark and Matt in studio. And real quick, I got to mention this. Jim on the instant feedback wanted to know if I passed around the anonymous box about earnings and sponsors and all that and everything. I actually did talk to a number of guys at the Classic. The Classic just was not the place to do it. All right. Too many other things going on. But most of the guys that I spoke with, Matthew, they are willing to do it based upon the parameters that I'm going to do it in.
Brief rundown of what that is.
Well, there's a couple of questions.
No, of what the whole thing is,
well,
just in case you haven't.
In case you haven't listened to this show, what I want to do is I want to have a box that is totally sealed and then get with a number of pros on the Elite Series, on the FLW, on Major League Fishing, and ask 3 questions. One, how many paying sponsors do you have? How many non-paying sponsors do you have? And what is your total sponsorship compensation? They don't put their name on it. They all use the same pen. I fold it up and I slide it into the box and I mix it up,
So
and I
it'll
have
just
no
say
idea.
4 paying sponsors,
Yeah.
2 non-paying sponsors,
Total
compensation, $19,000.
And then the 4th question is, what is the most important tournament in professional fishing?
Really? You're going to do that?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. No, it's totally geared toward the dollar amounts. I'm not
What
going
was
to.
the point of even saying that?
Made you laugh, didn't you?
Yeah.
Got a chuckle out of you. Oh, by the way, nice job this weekend, man.
Thank
Caught
you.
a few, didn't you?
Caught a few, yeah.
Now you got to catch a few, in 2 weeks?
Next week on Kentucky. Yeah, 2 weeks on Kentucky Lake. Yeah, in Bass Nation. There's 50, I think 54, either 52 or 54 boats in the first Bass Nation qualifier mark. So that means 104 people.
Yeah.
So that's growing.
It's cool.
Big time. I mean, it's grown each of the last year, so it's getting back to where it was when I first joined.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Kenyon Hill making a return.
Kenyon Hill, Jared
Miller?
Jod Sukup, who's fished the Forest Wood Cup. There's a number of kind of decorated anglers in that.
Nice job, man. Good
Thank
job.
you.
All right, let's bring in our guest, our first one of the week, coming off a 12th place finish in the Bassmaster Classic, and looking forward to talking to him. A weird week, but at the same time had the largest limit of the event, correct, Matthew?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Over
On a swim bait.
over 21 pounds.
Yeah. All right, let's bring him in. Chris, you there, man?
I'm here, guys. Good morning.
Thanks for taking time. All right, I want to ask you this first of all. The picture that I'm using, I pulled off your social media. Was that like yesterday or this week?
Dude. Man, I'll tell you what. I got back from the Classic, had an awesome week. I got back on I guess about a week ago now on a Monday night. And by Tuesday morning, I was on Lake Fork. You know, I'm living in Fort Worth, Texas now, and man, I got home and I got tired of being in those Rocky Top 30-degree nights, and I noticed in North Texas here it was like 75 degrees in the daytime and 50s overnight. I'm like, we're near a full moon. I better go to Lake Fork. I could learn something for the Texas Bass Fest coming up. I could learn areas and throw a big swim bait around. And man, whew, I kind of picked up where I left off in the Classic, chucking a big mag draft around. And oh my gosh, every fish I caught at Lake Fork over the last few days, 7 to 9 pounds. Absolutely unreal.
Wow.
Some of the social media posts that you had on some of your stories, it looked like an absolute gong show on Lake Fork as far as boat traffic is concerned.
Oh. And I say it all the time. Every time I go. Matter of fact, when you guys, when I was a rookie on the scene, I would pick up my Skeeter Yamaha over there in Kilgore, Texas, and I'd break it in on Lake Fork. And I told all my California buddies, man, Lake Fork is the Clear Lake of Texas, and Clear Lake of Northern California. Everyone knows there's giants there. It's so weird that there are like hundreds of guides on Lake Fork. There are, thousands of anglers every single day on Lake Fork in March, especially around a full moon, but the fish still bite. Every point, every cut, every drop off, every hump, every cluster of trees has at least one boat on it, but the fish still bite. Truly one of the most special lakes in the state of Texas.
So do you just go out and fish by yourself then? I mean, you have all this circus around you, and I know some of these guys like to get out and just kind of do your own thing and kind of get centered again.
Yep. Well, per BASS rules, once once the elite schedule is announced, I cannot fish with anyone that has prior knowledge of the lake that's on the schedule. So in this case, I couldn't fish with my father-in-law, I couldn't fish with my wife, couldn't fish with anyone except for Lee Livesey, who happens to be an Elite Series rookie. He's leading Rookie of the Year right now. He guides on Fork. So he was in the area. He was texting me, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'll show you a few things if, you kind of help me out throughout the year," and kind of a tit-for-tat type thing. And I was like, "Hey, man, no problem." Lee Livesey knows his stuff, and as Elite Series rookie, that's what we're looking for is, on the Elite Tours is that type of talent. The guy is a natural. He's the guy that people don't know. At the Plaque St. John's River tournament, he casted over a dock and hooked a 7 or 8 pounder and got it back in the boat by sweeping his rod underneath the dock, landed this giant fish. But definitely a lot of talent as an Elite Series rookie. He showed me a few things. He brought me to one point, no joke. And he goes, "Hey, you're a big bait guy. Throw your big bait across that point." And in 3 casts, I think I had a 9, a 7, and one close to 7. It was absolutely unreal. So he knows his stuff. Look out for him at the Toyota Texas Bass Classic coming up in May.
All right, I want to go back to the Classic, Chris, and I specifically want to get into, you had this massive bag on day 2, and then you came up short on the final day. What happened on that final day, and why the decision, whatever it was, why did you make that decision on the final day?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's back it up to practice. During practice, it's a full 8 or 9 days before the actual event starts. And my whole goal during practice, water was moving, it was muddy, it was cold. You heard it from Ott, you heard it from all the guys. But my whole game plan was to stay on the main river. It's a Tennessee River. In my past experience, even when they're spawning, full-on spawn, you could always find fish on the main Tennessee River. So I established some areas on the main river, rock transitions from bluff rock to chunk rock and from chunk rock to gravel, throwing a big old, Jason Christie single-bladed Colorado spinnerbait because the water clarity was really poor and the water was cold. So I found some fish doing that spinnerbait, main river. Again, this is a whole week before the tournament started. The rain kind of settled out and the water started getting clearer and clearer. By the official practice day they gave us, I decided to run all the way up the Tellico River. I flipped into a laydown. I caught a 6.5 pounder. So on paper, it's warming. The water temperatures are coming up. It's getting a little clearer. We're coming into a full moon. So on paper, I thought I was going to win the Bassmaster Classic flipping laydowns way up the Tellico River after the official day of practice. So on day 1, I went all the way up there and only caught 9 pounds for 3 or 4 fish or whatever it was. And I completely drove by all of those swim bait and spinnerbait spots on the main river. So, and I don't care, how many classics you fish. I don't care if you're Kevin or Ike or whoever it might be. Man, there's always nerves. This was my 4th classic I fished. I had a live camera in the boat because I told the guys, hey, I had an unbelievable practice. It's going to be really good. So on day 1, I had a live camera. I had, lots and lots of spectators. I had a lot of pressure on me. So day 1, 9 pounds, wasn't that good. I thought I was out of it. Day 2, I forgot my GoPro. I didn't have a live camera. All I had, and I didn't have a crowd, all I had was my Marshall with me. And I said, hey, look, I'm going to go out and just try to have fun today. Just have fun. I picked up a swim bait because the water clarity was getting better. I picked up my 6-inch mag draft, an 8-inch mag draft, and I just proceeded to have an awesome day. And that's why we all do it. I don't care what tour you fish, whether numbers count or the hot, biggest 5 bass limit counts. Man, I just went out and enjoyed a day of fishing, and it happened to be on the biggest stage, the biggest tournament in bass fishing. I went out and every single stop, every single spot I pulled up to, I would call my shots, and within the first 3 casts with that swim bait slow rolling it, 3 pounder, 4 pounder, 4 pounder, 4 pounder, 5 pounder, 6 pounder, and it was just an unbelievable non-pressured fishing day. And that's why we all do this. And I was fortunate enough to propel myself into third place, and I gave my shot to win the Bassmaster Classic.
All right, so what happened on the final day?
Yeah, the final day. Oh, the final day, I stuck with it. That particular pattern, those rock transitions, main river, big swim bait, that pattern required either current or wind. And on day 2, I had both current and wind. And on day 3, neither. It was flat pancake, zero wind. And for whatever reason, after months and months of spilling water through that dam, they decided to plug 2 of the gates or whatever, and they brought the water flow down last day of the Classic. And, I needed wind or current, and I had neither. But I stuck with it. It's the Bassmaster Classic, and I stuck with it. Most of the guys I got off the water, most of the media and fans, and said, they didn't say, "Oh, dude, what happened? What happened to your bite?" They said, "Man, you went for it, and that's what you have to do." And I truly believe that. I left it all out there, and I stuck with the big swim bait because I knew if it got right, I would win. And I knew I needed 18 to 19 pounds. And honestly, I didn't even know where to go to jig a chatterbait or drag a jig or drag a worm to catch 15, 16 pounds. I didn't even know how to do that. All I knew to catch a 20-pound bag was to throw big swim bait. So, and it didn't happen. But we had a good showing.
All right, I'm gonna ask you a question that I want to know, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who listen and watch the show fish tournaments put a lot of time and effort into a specific tournament that's coming up, whether that's a team championship or a Skeeter or a Nichols or a BFL, whatever the heck it is. And then it doesn't go well, and you got that post-tournament just like
hangover.
It is the worst feeling ever. So you go into the Bassmaster Classic with everything on the line. You're less than 2 pounds out of the lead going into the final day. I was on the dock there, talked to you going into that final day. You just come off a 21-12 bag, and then it just goes downhill for you on the final day. Then you have to come back. You have the media, the press. You have to be in that room. Like, honestly, how hard is that to get over? How often do you think about it? And what is the process to getting back to where when you make your next cast on Hartwell, that's in the rearview mirror? Or is it something that will stick with you until you win a Classic, or will always stick with you, man, I was less than 2 pounds out going into that final day?
Yeah, that's a good question, Matt. And, man, this is my 8th year on the Elite Series Tour, and man, I used to get really, really down on myself. I used to just beat myself up I've got a lot of several thirds and seconds, and you're always thinking, man, what if I would have did this? What if I would have did that? And man, I really try to tune all that stuff out and keep a smile on my face. And I really did look at all the positives there. I mean, one huge positive was being in the Super 6, and this is the most stacked Elite Classic field we've ever had in Knoxville there, and the biggest crowd. But to experience that Super 6, that was a huge takeaway for me. Just a huge plus to be on that stage with a legend like Mike Iaconelli and some of the younger guys up there, and just to be on that stage of Super 6, that's pretty satisfying. That's a huge positive takeaway, and definitely some momentum to go into the rest of the season. It sucks that I didn't take home that trophy, no doubt. I mean, I was right there within striking distance, but at about 10:30 or 11 o'clock that day, that third day, you feel it. It's like that weight. It's a literal weight on your shoulders, and it's like, oh man, this is not gonna happen, is it? There's no current, there's no wind. So man, I was a little stubborn. I stuck with the swim bait thing, but again, I told myself, all through the Classic, you have to make all the right decisions, from what pair of socks you wear that morning to when I need to move and what I need to be throwing. But I told myself I'm going to try to make all the best decisions, and I honestly 1,000% can tell myself I made all of the decisions I could to win. All the smartest, the smartest decisions I could possibly make to put myself in contention. So those are huge takeaways, and I really don't, I don't get down on myself going into the rest of the season, and I just know I'll be back. I'll have another shot at that Classic. So I just take the positives away and just keep carrying on.
This would be a good question for you because it's kind of what you just described. But I've always said to people, they'll say, oh, so-and-so had a 10th or 11th place in the Classic. Look, he was there. And I've often argued that the guy who finishes 49th or 50th has more of a chance of winning the Classic because they did something that was either going to propel them into the front or not. We've seen a lot of anglers who have zeroed in it who obviously could have caught 10 or 11, but a lot of guys, I feel, fish the Classic, come in with that middle of the pack weight, but don't give themselves a chance to win. Is that kind of the case here where
That is 1,000% spot on, and until you finish the Bassmaster Classic, you don't really understand that. And man, I think I had like 32 pounds, 33 pounds or something like that over 3 days. And I'll tell you, I would much rather have 9 pounds and then almost 22 pounds and then 3 or 4 pounds. I'd much rather do that number than 10 pounds, 10 pounds, 10 pounds. You don't give yourself a shot. You really don't, So that mindset of, man, let's really go for this. Let's really try to blow this out of the park. And the whole swim bait approach, that whole big fish approach, only 5, you're looking for 5 big ones is all you're looking for. And that whole approach is, and I haven't won the Classic yet, but I know mentally that's how you get it done. That's how I want to get it done. And that is how, Chris Zaldain would win the Classic, is by that mental state, that approach.
Chris, a lot of people across the country, obviously the swim bait bite, that was the ticket for you on day 2. A lot of people have the perception that you have to throw that swim bait when the water is super clear. What was the water clarity like, and can you explain to the fans that is either the case or not the case?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And man, I know, because Oklahoma, you guys have a lot of Oklahoma listeners and viewers. And man, I growing up in California, the rule of swim bait fishing was find the clearest water possible, find you a little wind on a main point. That was the rule growing up. But as I started fishing the tour, I kind of traded in the 9-inch, 10-inch, and 8-inch swim baits for just a good mid-size 6-inch swim bait. That mag draft is awesome, and so when you're throwing it in the dirtier water, like in Oklahoma, Texoma, whatever it might be, as long as you throw it shallow, and you got the right color, like a pearl albino color, and that swim bait has got the tail wiggle and head wiggle mixed in, man, that thing's just like a mini vibrating chatterbait is all it is. If it's got the head wiggle and a lot of vibration, you could throw it in that 2-foot visibility, no problem. And that's what we had in Knoxville, 2.5-foot visibility. So just because the water's dirty doesn't mean they're not going to bite a swim bait. If the water's dirty, that means they're shallower. So throw that thing shallower, shallow rock, shallow docks. They could feel that swim bait, and when they get close enough to see the profile of it, they're gonna pummel it. And I say it all the time. It's swim bait like that is you throw it exactly where you throw a 3/8 ounce spinner bait and just slow roll it out, and you'll be surprised, how vicious that they bite that thing. They don't see very many fake pieces of plastic that big, so they see a million spinner baits, crankbaits, and all that. But when you throw them a piece of rubber that big and it's looking a little bit different than a spinner blade, then they pounce on it, no doubt, no matter what the clarity is.
All right, one more question on the swim bait thing, and you don't have to go into detail. I'm just really curious, not only for myself, but I think some of the fans are too. Gear ratio wise, what do you throw with that swim bait?
Yeah, man, I've always been either a 6-3 to 1, or the high speed one is 7 to 1. I wouldn't go any faster than 7 to 1. A 7 to 1 is great for like the 6-inch version, because you could cast it a long ways and then troll up to it and cover a lot of water. 7 to 1 helps keep it moving at the right speed. I love a 6 to 1 on the big giant swim baits, because the 8s and the 9-inch swim baits, I like to pull up to a point, cast along a point, and almost work it uphill and slow. So a 6 to 1 gear ratio reel is perfect for that kind of deal. But if I had to pick one gear ratio, 6 to 1, nice and slow. It's a slow swim bait retrieve. It's a swim bait. You let it swim, nice and slow and low. And when they eat it, I mean, they absolutely crush it. Another tip for the swim bait is, when they bite it, it's got treble hooks on it. When they bite it, a lot of times those fish are bigger than average. The bait is bigger than average. You want to keep those hook points coming to the boat. So when you peg it, I mean, just start winding, man. Just start winding and winding. Don't let her get leverage on it, but keep those hook points coming to the boat. A lot of times we'll boat flip them. Yeah, it's just a big fake piece of plastic that you're fooling a 10-year-old fish into biting. So when that happens, it's a big one. So,
man, the world is changing because I'm sitting here asking fishing questions that are related to tips and techniques. Golly, what's going on here, Matthew? All right, real quick. Will in Indiana, I want to ask your question, but I'm a little confused by it. So if you can resubmit it, I'll try and get it in a format to where Chris can answer that.
But now you got me interested.
I mean, I'll show it to you afterwards, but hopefully he'll resubmit a question because I didn't really understand what he was talking about. All right, David in Wisconsin wants to know, after your practice, was the results that you showed better than you thought?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. If you look at my social media, again, I caught that 6.5 largemouth. I had a near 5-pound smallmouth. I had a couple different patterns going, and I knew in the back of my head that when I decided on the first day to just go flipping, because I caught that 6.5 flipping way an hour up the river, I knew I was playing with danger. I was, playing with fire. It was a little dangerous because if you didn't get the bites, you would go down hard. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I could just fall back and throw those swim baits. I had a little underspin, deal on some bridge pilings as well for some smallmouth. I caught some doing that as well. But man, that almost 22-pound bag, 2112. That was a special day, and it kind of caught me by surprise. But I knew once I was in that zone, once I caught 3 on the exact same type of structure, the exact same type of bank, I knew I could run that pattern throughout the day, and all of them were big ones. And man, that's what tournament fishing's all about, right? Is picking up on the little subtleties during the tournament, not during practice, but during the tournament, and just running with it. You see some of the greatest fishermen, Kevin Van Dam, some of the younger guys are really good at pattern fishing, establishing a pattern today, now, right now, and running with it. Forget about what practice was 4 days ago because things changed, and just running with it. And that day 2 was so special, and I try to make it happen on day 3. So, but to answer your question, I think my performance during the tournament exceeded what I found in practice, because practice is just, okay, one here, one there. You just try to find clues to apply to the tournament. So I did a good job on day 2 of applying what I learned. I just couldn't do it 3 days in a row.
What's more important, career-wise? Winning an Elite Series, which you have won an AOY championship, haven't you?
Yes.
Or being in the hunt going into the final day of the Classic with all that, and knowing that you're not going to win. But what do you feel holds more value?
That's a tough question. Either win an Elite Series, $100,000, the TV show, the live coverage during the week, or being in the hunt Super 6. Wow. I would have to say what I experienced a couple weeks ago in Knoxville, the Super 6 in contention, I'll tell you, that's a high that I have never experienced in my life. And that is probably at the top of my list because it's fresh. But being in the hunt, just a chance to win the Super Bowl of bass fishing, forget the money, but that trophy and the title, man. I mean, I mean, all the support and all that. I would say in contention to win the Classic from here on out. That's something that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often, and that's something that's special.
Blake wants to know, what are your thoughts on Knoxville as a host city, and what do you feel from logistics and just the way that the whole week flowed from a Classic week on the week in Knoxville?
Dude, the best, Blake, the best Classic I've ever been to venue-wise. Man, I was up every morning at 5 a.m. I had my boat in the water like at 5:22. So after I get up, 22 minutes later after a cup of coffee, my boat's in the water. So we had the hotel right across the street was the boat yard. Your boat was right there. And 2 minutes away from the boat yard was the launch ramp. So I was the first one on the dock every morning, and I got up at 5. Normally, to be the first one at the dock, you got to get up at 3:45 or 4 o'clock. And logistics-wise, Knoxville was awesome, and I would love to come back, tell you the truth. But there's only a few places in the whole country where you could host all 50 anglers, all the sponsors. in one there and have the boatyard right across the street and have the body of water right in the backyard. I mean, can you name any cities in the country that you could have that? There aren't very many, and the fishing was fairly good. So, logistics wise, A+. I mean, 100%, one of the best classics I've ever been to.
Cool. Corey in Tennessee, he says, Mark, I hate to ask another fishing question, but could you have Chris talk about the setup for the 6-inch mag draft? Mono or fluoro?
Yeah, no, 6-inch mag draft or any 6 to 7-inch, 5, 6, 7-inch swim bait. Dude, just grab your pitching rod or your jig rod. I use a Mega Bass Orochi XX, a 7'2". It's called a perfect pitch, and it's basically your jig rod, kind of stout with a little bit of a tip to it. 7'2" is kind of perfect for casting around docks or long cast. 15-pound test Seaguar and Vizex. I think that's very, very key. 17-20, too heavy. 12-10, way too light. But at 15, it's got a very thin diameter. And like I said earlier, the beauty of a mag draft is it's got that tail wiggle, but up front, it's got that nice little head shimmy. And you could actually see your 15-pound test line do this number, and that's a huge key. When you're swim bait fishing, details matter. They really, really do. Balance and detail are the two things you got to consider when throwing a swim bait. Again, you got to convince that 10-year-old plus fish into biting something fake that's that big. So every little detail matters. So pitching rod, 7'2", jig rod, 15-pound test Seaguar and Vizex, and a 6-1 or 7-to-1 gear ratio reel, and you're in business. Throw it anywhere you throw a spinnerbait.
All right, hang on one second, Matt. I want to go back to the classic question in Knoxville real quick. I do want to say this. I can only remember one other event, well, multiple events in this venue. I think Birmingham is a great venue. The only downfall on Birmingham is because the lake is so far away. I thought it was super cool that just like you said, 20 minutes, you're down there, you're launched, you're at the boat dock waiting for the stuff that's going down. The crowd at Knoxville, one of the best crowds that I've ever seen. Obviously, they were thirsting for this event, and they really embraced what was taking place, not just at the arena, but at the expo, at the launch, at the lake. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of observers that were on the water. So all in all, I mean, I think it was like a 9.5 out of 10. I thought it was excellent.
Absolutely.
What would have made it a 10, Mark?
Huh?
Yeah.
What would have made it a 10, Mark? What was the 0.5 that you took off the deduction for?
Nobody's perfect, dude.
You don't want perfect scores. I 153,000, something like that in attendance over the week, and those are pretty good numbers. I guess they have the Vols football games there, and they're pretty accurate. And I guess they use local law enforcement for those numbers. So that's pretty good. And the question is, the guy that comes from, Washington or, whatever, a lot of guys from Arizona, Nevada, all over the country. Now, did those people go just because they know that KVD, that's going to be his last classic? Or did they go because this is the Super Bowl of bass fishing, the Bassmaster Classic? It'll be really interesting to see, next year's classic. As a competitor, it's going to look a whole lot different because I'm competing against a whole different crew. But we'll see what how the fan reaction will be. But I have to say, after experiencing this classic and 3 others prior to this, I mean, the Bassmaster Classic is going nowhere. That trophy, every bass fisherman, whether you're a weekend guy, BFL guy, everyone wants that trophy, and that trophy is going nowhere. And we're going to continue to have that event. Again, going back to the Elite Series, in order to qualify for the Classic, you fish the Elite Series. The majority of the field will qualify for the Classic through the Elite Series. And I'll tell you, the new Elite Series, these guys are no slouches. I promised you that. And I had a conversation with KVD before I weighed in on day 3. It was kind of my goodbye to KVD. He came up to me in my boat and said, "Hey, dude, man, how'd you catch him?" And I showed him my swim bait. He goes, "Oh my gosh!" And he showed me his spinner bait and stuff like that. And we had a talk, and it was kind of my farewell to him. And And, he was saying, yeah, we've got some good things going, what we're doing over here, and you guys have some great things going, and it'll be good. And in typical KVD fashion, he's a competitor. He loves to compete against guys. And, he was saying things like, yeah, it's kind of game on, kind of a friendly competition thing versus, with the two leagues. But again, like I said, and he said it best, is, the only way guys are going to learn as far as fishing goes and competition goes is by getting their brains kicked in. And that's how I learned. I remember you guys interviewed me in 2012, 2013, my rookie season. And I said, man, these guys are good. And I can guarantee you those rookies in 2019 are thinking, wow, I got to step my game up. So these guys are going to get good really fast. And our whole goal over, at Bass and during the competition is just to showcase big fish. We all love catching giant fish and giant bags of fish. And as long as the guys, the Elite Series guys continue to sack them up like they have the last couple tournaments, the fans are going to stay tuned, man. They're gonna love to see these guys, going through the ranks and making the Elite Series. And we all just want to see big fish catches and big stringers caught. And that's what these guys are going to continue to deliver.
All right, a couple more questions from the instant feedback. Tyler, longtime viewer, listener in College Station, wants to know, where can you get one of those hats that you're wearing?
Oh, dude, I had New Threads, Sarah Newmore over at New Threads. Man, I love the camo hat thing, and I've been on it for several years now. Everyone's got Matt's got a camo hat on, old school woodland camo, the Vietnam era. But no, I bought a bunch of blanks. This hat company was out of like Compton, California, and I think I bought like 50 or 60 of them, and they were super cheap. They're like $7 a hat. So I bought a bunch of them, and I sent them over to New Threads, and she did the Yamaha logo on this side, Skeeter up front, Megabass on the side. So I don't like I don't like being, I don't like wearing the Team Skeeter hat. I like being a little different. I like going against the grain every now and then, as you can tell. And I kind of like being different. So this hat's not available, but maybe I'll do a giveaway on my social media. I had several of them made. Maybe I'll do a giveaway.
There you have it.
So it's a long answer to you can't. Where can I get it? You can't.
Yeah.
There you have it. All right, Brad in Nebraska wants to know, do you focus on a few new specific fishing techniques and try to focus on them for the 2019 season in addition to the techniques that are your go-to stuff? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, dude, how do you get better at hockey or baseball, football? You practice that wrist shot, slap shot, skating. You practice new techniques. You're constantly doing that, man. It's amazing how, like the chatterbait, for example, it took a while for the chatterbait to really catch on. B Height wins several tournaments in a row, several big tournaments, and now every single grass lake we go to, and now guys are like jigging it off rocks, but now everyone's got a chatterbait. It's funny how, and then this past tournament in Knoxville, like everyone knows, it's East Tennessee. You got to have the shallow balsa flat-sided crankbait. So like every single competitor had one tied on. So yeah, you have to be definitely got to be hip to like the newest techniques, a lot of the old ones. It's just, certain lakes across the country, you go to Table Rock, you got to have a wiggle wart tied on. You go to your Oklahoma lakes, you got to have that single Colorado bait tied on, the Colorado spinnerbait tied on. You got to be keen to that kind of deal. But man, when you find a pattern or a lure that you have to yourself that week, like something against the grain, like a spinnerbait or a swim bait, when everyone else is throwing shallow-sided crankbaits, flat-sided crankbaits, that's when you can win by a lot. So you're constantly checking the old school stuff, the go-to stuff, but man, you also want to mix in, new school techniques. And again, and the other thing too is if you ever want to learn a certain technique, whether it's swim baiting, finesse swim baiting, jerk baiting, man, I encourage you to go out and only bring that rod out there. If you want to learn big swim baits, just, take everything out of your boat and load up a big swim bait rod, big line, and a couple big swim baits, and force yourself to learn those techniques. And there's no better way to learn than just getting that first bite and then that second and third bite, and boom, there's your confidence. to bring into the next tournament. So I encourage everyone to, if you want to try a new technique, limit yourself only to that technique that day. Take everything else out of the boat.
Yeah, there's a disclaimer with that. It just experience a lot of depression if you do that with the swim baits. Like, I've done that. There's a lot of why the hell is there nothing else in the boat? This was stupid. I spent $120 to catch nothing. That whole 9 yards. But I had a question just as a follow up to that. What is one technique that you are like really good at that no one knows you're really good at and haven't had a chance to highlight yet in your career?
Oh man, I'm just waiting for that tournament and Lanier was kind of like that, where I was fishing out in 50, 60 feet of water. We just don't have a lot of those tournaments, but whenever the fish are real deep and cold, man, I love showcasing a lot of my finesse techniques, and it requires patience. So patience can't be taught. It's just something that you have to have. And that goes with confidence and fishing that deep. But I would say anything deep, the deep drop shot, or like real specifically a deep Neko rig. That's something I've been doing for 15, 20 years. But taking the 16th ounce, and that's light, 16th ounce Neko rig, nail weight, in a finesse worm, and dropping it down that deep.
That's like 6 casts a day. That's like trolling. That's like daytime trolling for swordfish.
It is. It really is. But those fish are untapped, and to get those fish to bite in clear water, and Hartwell may be that way too. So we'll see how that turns out. I know and I've never been there, but I know it's a good swim bait lake, and it's a good deep water spotted bass largemouth lake. So I'm really looking forward to that one too.
Yeah, I've totally forgot what I was going to ask him. The Nico thing blew my mind with the 16th ounce weight.
Yeah,
I had one more question.
Come on, Matthew.
Oh, here's a question. Okay, and I've wanted to ask you this because I've watched your fundamentals. You're very fundamentally sound. You're very efficient. Front deck to the front. Your roll cast, underhand. What percentage of fish over the course of the year would you say you catch as a result of where you are and what you're throwing, as opposed to a result of technical skill?
Yeah, that's a good question. Where you are and what you're throwing. Gosh, man, Matt, I really strive to make every cast and have every cast just perfect. Especially the swim bait thing, everything is all about angles. So a mix of both, I would say like 50-50. I mean, I love to be real technical, really think about how that point lays out and where that drop is, and just making that perfect cast over that drop. With a swim bait or whatever it might be. So we do everything for a reason. I mean, I just don't go down the bank and chuck a spinner bait or whatever it is. Everything's for a reason. And it really starts, Matt, with now this year it's Humminbird Lake Master. But I mean, I'll tell you what, the most important piece of equipment on my boat, you'll be surprised when I say this, isn't like the 2D sonar or the side imaging or the 360 imaging. It's simply my map. It really is my map. I'm the type of person that learns and from what I see visually. So when I look at a map, zoom in and out of my Lake Master chip, and I pick out a point because it's a lot longer and slopier than the rest, but has a little drop at the end of it, man, if I position my boat and get a bite off that long sloping point with a drop, I could zoom out of my map and drop a waypoint on every single long sloping point with a drop. Don't even need my 2D sonar. Don't even need to know what exists on that point. All I need to know is I position my boat, kind of up the slope, cast over it, and retrieve it. But that map is the most important tool on my belt, without a doubt. And I feel like without a map, I'd be lost. So if I just had 2D or just down imaging or side imaging, it's nothing. And picking out those spots on a map, that's what makes a fisherman great. Or that bank that's real close, that channel that swings close to the bank. And there's only one way to find that, and that's by looking at your map. So it's just like, man, it's like elementary school. When you get a bite on a set of topography lines that are real close together, and you could choose and pick your spots from there, man, it's just like matching shapes. You match the shape of that point to the next point to the next point, and that's how you really catch them really good. And that's what I did on day 2 of the Classic, just matching spots, fished all new spots. That's when you win by a lot.
So understanding fish patterns, patterning fish, and understanding why and where they are more important than being a badass caster.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious.
Absolutely.
I mean, you've got guys who say, "Oh, have you seen how good this guy is? I mean, look, you could skip it and all that." But I mean, who freaking cares if there's no fish underneath there? If you're in the wrong part of the lake, you could have a guy. You could have a guy who uses a freaking 2-hand caster and can't skip to save his life. Yep. There's guys out there like that who have Bassmaster Classic trophies on their mantle. But that's what I was just wanted to kind of prove the point that Zaldain would say, because he's kind of the best of both worlds.
Good point. You could be like you said, you could be just a badass caster, skipping that frog, like Dean Rojas, for example, the best caster ever. But you take all his experience, frog fishing experience out of it, and you just give him a rod and a reel and the casting ability. And you said it right. I mean, if there's no fish there, those casts don't matter. And then there's guys that have won classics, that are picking out backlashes. Oh, there's a fish, but something told them to be on that spot. Something told them to go to that mat of grass and flip a heavy jig or whatever into that mat of grass. Oh, I just won the classic, and so experience and knowing where those fish go seasonally and picking those spots on a map definitely outweighs the ability to skip that jig up under a dock. I would say 80% to 20%.
One more question, then I'm done, Mark. I promise. I know I keep cutting you off. Okay, for the average guy who's out there, he's going to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to fire up my unit. I'm going to look at this stuff. I'm going to go to it. What percentage of the time, when you're fairly dialed in or whatnot, do you pick a spot on the map without having been there before? You go off and it actually pays off? Because I know I've done it before. I've gone and had all these waypoints, and about 7 waypoints in, I'm like, this is not productive.
Not the deal.
Yeah. So I just wanted as a kind of a litmus test for everyone out there. I mean, do you expect to go to a lot of the stuff and go, no, not exactly what I thought, or not exactly what it looked like, or is it like every time you roll up and it's just like bam, bam, bam?
So we go to a fresh lake. And let's say, like, for example, right now it's spring. It's springtime. The fish are gonna be spawning in back pockets. I'm gonna look for flat. The topography lines that are further apart from each other. Flats. So a lot of times on an unfamiliar lake, you just go to the last stretch of tight lines, which is the deepest water, before you go to the flats. So in my mind, I launch my boat. That's where I start. That's the characteristics I'm looking for. Those tight lines right before the real flat areas. So you test a couple of those, and you may get a bite, you may not get a bite, and then from there you make the adjustment. Okay, let's go further back out. Let's try to establish a pattern. But the key is when you have those thoughts in your mind. Okay, I need to be doing this, and you check it, and if it doesn't pan out, you don't get down on yourself. They're going to be somewhere, so you just eliminated. That's a positive. You just eliminated that thought. Okay, you had the thought for a reason. Got to check it, and if it doesn't pan out, don't fret over it. Don't, oh man, this sucks. I'm not going to catch them. It's 11 o'clock. I got the rest of the day. They're not going to bite. You got to keep grinding, man. Keep grinding and keep thinking. Listen to those voices in your head and keep checking. Those spots. So that's the biggest thing is don't get discouraged. That little voice in your head's telling you something. But don't get discouraged if that voice is wrong. It told you something for a reason. A lot of times it's just a process of elimination. You eliminated that. But it's all about, for the weekend guy, if you want to get better, just establishing patterns is the way to go. And I'm telling you, it doesn't, bait color, bait selection, that stuff doesn't matter. Pick up what you're most comfortable with and just try to find on your map characteristics of where the fish are biting. You get that bite, drop a waypoint. Okay, what are those? Where's the main channel compared to where I just got this bite? And the main channel may be 20 yards from where you got that bite. So now for the rest of the day, fish 20 yards off that main channel and just keep bouncing around and keeping it fresh. That's one of the hardest things we do as fishermen. You go to your favorite lake and fish the exact 3 spots you fish. I don't care if it's October or January, February. You fish those same spots. I encourage all the listeners to go out and find new stuff, man, and find new spots. And that's how you become a really good fisherman. And breaking down a new lake is just where are they at in relation to the map and those topography lines.
Chris, a couple more questions, and then we'll let you go. We appreciate you taking a little bit more time.
No problem.
I'm really curious, and I know this is a close-ended question, and I don't want you to answer it yes or no. I want you to elaborate on it. Do you think after this classic that we're finally at a point where brand one focuses on brand one and brand two starts to focus on what they need to do to be successful. And now we finally have this separation to where we can identify with what is taking place on both tours.
Yeah, and I'll use the words of some conversations that happened behind the scenes. The divorce papers are signed. They're signed. They're got no alimony. Like that's it, right? Anglers who are well established, who have done a fantastic job with the organization they fished with for years and years and years and years, have moved on. A bunch of them moved on. I hope they concentrate on what they're good at, what they do. Their whole brand is every fish counts. That's them. That's what they do. They make TV shows. That's them. That's what they do. What Bass does, what I chose, the organization I chose to be with, man, I love an 8-hour day where I could just comfortably fish and look for the 5 biggest ones I could possibly find. And I did that on day 2 of the Classic. And Bass is going to continue to do what they do well. And that's from the grassroots level all the way to the Elite Series to the Classic, showcase the anglers. A fire has been lit under their butts to really showcase the anglers and provide a platform for them to make a good living off of. And I'm glad of my decision to stay with that. And then again, I hope that brand M, they continue to do what they do best. I really do believe that they are 2 completely different products, 2 different obviously 2 different organizations that believe in 2 different things, and we'll let the fans decide. We're moving on, no doubt. They got the names. They got new. They've got the new format. We've got the tried and true format. We've got new names. It'll be interesting. It will be fun. You guys are doing an awesome job as a media crew covering it in an unbiased way. And you shout out, by the way, Bass Talk Live. Trait and I, my wife, have watched every single interview over the last 6 months, and it's a great source of. You guys already know it's a great source of inside information, and you guys have a bunch of credibility. I love it. All the interviews are top notch, but yeah, and I'm still a fan of your biggest names, Kevin and Ike and Swindle. I love watching those guys on TV, like I did growing up, but those shoes have to be filled over at Bass, and I'm willing to step up and kind of fill those shoes and alongside of all the new up and coming stars. So it'll be a fun ride. And again, it boils down to fans love seeing big fish caught, big, huge sacks of fish being weighed in because they can relate to that. And we're going to continue to do that. And as long as the Elite Series guys keep on catching them, I'll tell you, the media team is gonna showcase those guys and those big fish, and that's what the fans love seeing. So we're gonna continue to do that. And those guys that have moved on, they're gonna continue to do what they do. So I just hope we all keep it classy and again, let the fans decide. So that's what we're trying to do, myself and Trait, and I love it. I love where we're at. I love the format, and I'll do my best to represent the Bass brand is the best of my ability, and just keep catching big ones. That's what it's all about.
All right, man. Final question. What is the one stop on the remainder of the schedule that you're really, really looking forward to?
Without a doubt, Lake Cayuga. That one is like it reminds me of Clear Lake back in California. I've had some really good finishes there. The sheer number of fish in that place. Think about it. 4 months out of the year, there's ice over their heads, and they're just it's just both smallmouth and largemouth deep grass. A lot of fish catches and a lot of fish from 3.5 to 4.5 pounds. So that's not only a fun one, but I think I've got a good chance to win there. I know a lot of the good areas there, and I love fishing that deeper grass with swim baits and deep flipping.
All right, cool stuff. Chris, can't thank you enough for taking time out. Welcome anytime, man. Thanks for the props, too. But best of luck to you
guys
for the remainder of the season.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. You guys keep up the good work, and I'll tune in to the next interview there, and we will see you along the road.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good, man. Be careful. See ya. All right, there you have it. Chris Zaldain. Great stuff. I forgot to ask you this question, Matt. And I don't know. I had it written down for the show that we did after the Classic. Who had a greater HFA? Ott on the Tennessee River in Knoxville or Edwin at Grand Lake for their win? Who do you think had a greater HFA?
Well, the rules were different with Edwin's win as far as off limits and information.
Dude, I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about who do you think had the greater In other words, do you think that Ott's HFA was the greatest HFA in Classic history?
No, I would have to give that to Casey Ashley.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I didn't even think about that, but you bring up a valid point. You do. I was just thinking Edwin on Grand.
Ashley was throwing an underspin on obscure guts over standing timber in the winter, and he didn't lead it wire to wire, but I mean he was pretty damn confident going into that.
I still say that Ott definitely.
Yeah.
You bring up a valid point. It's a valid argument, but I think in the history of the Classic that was greater than Casey's.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's comparable.
It's weird. You remember how years and years and years, dude,
Edwin was not even the favorite.
I know it was
going
Christie.
into it was Jason. So
yeah.
But Edwin has a lot of experience and a lot of history and knew a lot of people who fished it, and that was back when you could get information for it.
Yeah.
Same with Casey.
Yeah. But for years and years and years, we talked about, and the industry talked about how the HFA meant nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, Casey and Edwin used that HFA to win the Classic, and to a large extent, Ott did too. But he also relied on Keith Poche at a dock on the final day. Which is interesting. I'm just saying, dude. It's like Edwin. What I'm saying is, Edwin went to a spot where he was like, dude, when this happens and this happens, they go here, and I'm going to save it to the last day. And it's like this sneaky thing. Casey said, when this happens and this happens, the big spots go here, and I'm going to catch my big bag on the last day. And Ott was coming off a 9-pound day, and I don't want to say he scrambled, but he used some, I guess, wasn't like
he said I've caught fish off that dock before.
Okay.
I've caught them there before.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't like a spot that he was like, oh, I had no idea. It wasn't like that. He said that he had caught fish on that dock before.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to him before. He knew it really well. He'd fished there. He'd fished everything there.
Yeah, it's just funny, man. Here in recent years, the trend was nobody's going to catch them on their home lake.
Up until 2007.
Yeah. And for the last 10, 12 years, it's just...
You know how hard that is?
Yeah.
The fact that it's done this? Do you think the fact that guys have seen other guys do it makes it easier? Is it that thing?
I don't know if it makes it easier. I think just the availability of knowledge and the growth and experience and being able to adjust much better based upon the research and the knowledge that they have.
But here's the thing. Here's what I think it is, Mark, and I could be wrong on this. It's just me hypothesizing. Is there's more knowledge available. There's more research available. Yeah. There's better mapping. There's better sonar units. So and I think what it is coming down to now, it's not like these guys have access to, it's coming down to these guys know when and where to make the decisions on the lake because everyone is at an equal playing field on everything. And you're seeing the decision making and the past history really play more now that everybody has all of the popular spots and the baits and know where it is and has the 1 foot contour mapping and the hardness bottom and all of this stuff.
That's all valid points.
And what I think the favorite locals are doing is everybody's ending up in the same spots now, but these guys know, based on their past experience on those fisheries, that one or two little things to do different that sets them apart.
Yeah. Valid point. All right, tomorrow we're going to go FLW. We're going to talk about the next event taking place on kind of one of our home bodies of water, Grand Lake. We're going to have Casey Scanlon on to discuss some of the stuff that's going down. What'd you say, 22 to win the Skeeter?
I think 22 was second. I'm not exactly sure. I thought I
Over
said
22.
over 22 just to be safe because I wasn't sure what the winning weight was. I saw what a buddy
All right,
posted.
which is typical for this time of the year on Grand Lake. But what happens is you have a lot of guys bunched up at the top, and then it drops off dramatically with those very, very large tournaments.
like it took $491 to get a check last week in the nickels.
Yeah.
And 13 pounds was top 10.
Kind of going through that phase, but I think that
If they hit the phase right, it could be gangbusters.
Yeah.
What is it? Let me pull this up.
So
you got school today?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me
Office
see what
spring
it's,
break. Back in the classroom.
Coming off of spring break.
Yeah.
Tulsa. I mean, your nights temperatures in Tulsa 46, 54, 59, 45 highs. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, mid 70s.
Maybe.
And then I mean, it's
Maybe.
they're going to be
Could happen.
helping
Yeah.
and rain and overcast.
Yeah, could happen. All right, looking forward to talking to Casey tomorrow. And then, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Andy Montgomery on Wednesday. So a jam-packed week once again here on BTL. I also want to mention we are going to place a promo sometime today out on YouTube about our next 20 Feet Deep documentary. The debut date we have right now is going to be April 29th, and this documentary is going to be titled 49th in reference to the 49th version of the Bassmaster Classic, and we're going to be working on that over the next 4 or 5 weeks. A different kind of look with some different interviews and quite a different take on what we've ever done in diving into some of the aspects of the Bassmaster Classic and the 49th version of it.
Yeah, it'll be really cool. And then also a note, Dave Rush will be at Raleigh-Durham for the third stage of the MLF that kicks off. Probably the most intriguing
with 3 lakes
of the ones that have been announced, with 3 smaller lakes on the venue. So Dave Rush will be there. And then, the FLW Tour on Grand. So watch the MLF stuff during the week and then go watch FLW live on the weekend.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, we've had a really good amount of feedback on the one-on-one live that we did with Jordan Lee and Gerald Swindle. If you haven't caught the replay on that, it's out on YouTube. It's also on BassZone.com. And we are currently working on our next match that's going to take place, I'd say, May.
Yeah,
is what we're shooting
Matt
for.
from the Outdoor Scoreboard just posted some exciting news.
What's that?
Only 2 limits on Kentucky Lake in the BFL on the Saturday. I'm headed there for the next Costa.
The Costa might be a little interesting for you there, Matthew.
We'll see.
Wow.
Everyone's faced the same conditions.
I wonder how many boats they had. Matt?
I mean,
can you throw that out there?
No, but you would hope if there were 10 boats, you'd have more than 2 limits. And there were more than 10, I guarantee you that.
Yeah. All right, man. What else? Anything else?
No. No. I mean, we're done. We're already like an hour and a half into this thing, Mark. Let's wrap this thing up.
Good grief. Well, first one back in a long time. Had a lot to talk about. So, Casey Scanlon tomorrow, Andy Montgomery on Wednesday. Everybody be safe. Enjoy the fishing. Hopefully you can get out this week. And somewhere in the country, fishing is really, really good. Really good. Really, really, really good.
Sounds like Lake Fork.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. All right, everybody be safe. We're out of here.